Work Academy. Later, but obviously not the least, Max Filipov, management partner at GR Capital. And do we have Andrei? Is he here? Victor? Okay, and we have Victor, who is going to introduce himself once he's gonna get the microphone from me. And that would be it. So let's welcome the speakers on this stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Unfortunately, this is one of the hardest panels that I had to run in my experience because the topic of it is rather hard. Everyone on this panel or had to relocate their teams or face quite a lot of problems in the last 40 days because of the war. I would want to thank Poland and Polish people for all the support that they're providing to Ukraine in various ways, from volunteering to humanitarian aid and to opportunities for Ukrainian founders to present themselves in here. I would want firstly for the founders to present themselves, and we also have one Ukrainian VC on the panel to talk about their background, and then after that we will proceed with the questions, and I hope that you will have an entertaining discussion.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thanks everyone, and also thanks Poland and the whole EU for the support. We are feeling it. I'm Max Filipov. I'm a managing partner at GR Capital. We are a Ukrainian team. We are not per se Ukrainian fund because we didn't invest in any of the Ukrainian startups, but our mission was always to invest into Western European startups at late stage and show them the benefits of working in Ukraine. Our brightest probably case is Glovo. We invested at Series B and introduced them to Ukraine. They started just out of our office. We made all the introductions for them, so their launch was 3 times shorter than usually in any other country where they do it alone from scratch. But we also have many other cases. I'll probably talk about them later in another panel we have. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, my name is Mika. I'm founder at Meliora and Green Tech and Narrative BI. I'm not a Ukrainian founder, but 2 out of 3 of my projects have team members in Ukraine, more than like 50 people right now. And yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm also super grateful to Poland to the support that they're actually doing right now. And yeah, Meliora is a carbon offset marketplace I'm working on right now. We are developing a solution to match emitters that would like to offset their emissions with deep tech companies that actually do direct carbon capture and other things like that. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you, Poland, for everything. My name is Olga. I'm originally from Kyiv. Right now I'm based in Berlin. I didn't relocate during these times. I've been already there. And I run Work Academy. It's a Berlin-based educational technology startup, which doing things in corporate education space. And we have a lot of partners, clients, family in Ukraine. And of course, we are touched with all that happening. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I also want to thank Poland and Polish people for the support, and it is really important for each of Ukrainian people, and we feel it. I'm Victor. I am co-founder of the DRCT. We are the company who is focused on the airline distribution. We are to create first ever neo airline. It's some kind of Uber, but for the civil aviation, or Revolut for banks. We want to create the airline without possessing our own fleet. That's, I think, it.
Thank you, everyone. So I will firstly start with startups, and then Max can follow. The question is how the war changed your plans. have you dealt with team relocation? Do you need additional investments? Has it changed your roadmap or expansion plans? And then I will have the exact same teams on questions on the investment side. For example, if you are now planning to invest directly into your Ukrainian founders.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So obviously it changed dramatically all the plans we had. And like it affected my life as well, because for the past 1.5 years I lived in Kiev, and I had to basically leave the country because of this disastrous war that's happening right now. I'm dealing a lot with the relocation of my employees for other ventures. For green tech, for example, we are relocating some people we are relocating to Western Ukraine, obviously, because it's safer, but we also relocating a lot of people to Poland because of very friendly environment and very easy relocation process here. And right now I think all our minds are about helping people make sure that they're safe. We are obviously trying to continue business as usual, both at Meliora and Green Tech, and working investments, acquiring new projects, all these things. But priority number one is obviously people, of course.
Yeah, it also changed our plans. So before the war, we were in the middle of our fundraising process. We were raising a small round to hire a salesperson to help us to increase our traction. And we actually found this person in Ukraine. And of course, it all changed. We still have our investors on board, which is great because all of them seen that we were not able to work as usual, but they still are with us. And for this, I'm grateful to investors who understand. But also, we had to rethink our activities. Yeah.
For our business, war is also a disaster. Okay. Before the war, we closed first pre-seed round of investment, and we have, of course, targets as always, which we need to the results that we need to deliver to the investors and to our own. For now, the war cut it like 20% of our business because some clients of ours were in Ukraine. It's not a lot in terms of the whole business, but of course it impacts also. And the main problem is that some of our team members are emotionally and they are paralyzed, so it's hard to work for them. Of course, we've moved them to the Western Ukraine. Now everyone is safe, everyone is okay, and we know how to react on. We are working in aviation, and we faced with COVID in 2020, so we know how to react on such disasters. Of course, it's no comparison with what happened during the COVID. But we start renewing our business. We relocated some of the members to Western Ukraine, and we relocated some of them to Lisbon. So like that.
Thank you. I think it's important to mention that Ukrainian founders right now will be pretty much bulletproof in terms of emotional or any mental challenging tasks, because I think what every Ukrainian has to face in the last 40 days, none of us actually get to experience. Of course, one thing is having employees in there, and the other thing is having all your life there, your families, relatives, and so on. So I think it should be considered for any investor when they will be looking at the Ukrainian startup. But Max, what do you think?
Yeah, that's really true. And probably answering your last question first, we are really thinking about investments into Ukraine now. So there were some plans before war that we will at one time or another start a Ukrainian fund as well, because our network in Europe is already pretty big and high quality, so we can be helpful for Ukrainian startups as well. But war has escalated these plans, so we already announced it will be actually not the project of JR Capital, because JR Capital was always about late-stage Western European investments, but it's another project with another partners. And I'm also here in Poland and in Europe to talk to institutional investors and to discuss, in light of the potential joining of Ukraine to the EU, how we can join all the EIFs, PFRs in Poland and other institutional governmental programs in terms of reviving Ukrainian business. And we just discussed this with one of the founders. I really believe that despite war, of course, it's horrible, but to build something on a leveled ground, it's even not a metaphor, is much easier to start something new and to grow it, because previously entrepreneurs were stuck, as I think, with their offline, traditional businesses, and they were doing okay. These days, they will understand they will need to be more resilient. They will not, they should not rely as much on the offline infrastructure and to build something innovative. And we want to help them with that. In terms of my own experience as a founder and a manager, yeah, it was a disaster as well. For the first week, we couldn't work, despite we also were pretty much ready after 2020-21 to work as a distributed team. Thanks God, to luck, to fortune, our CFO is in Australia. So as for the investment fund, it's a real kind of help that she wasn't affected anyhow, and she could support us even when we were moving all around the country to get to safer places and to help our families first, of course. But after 1 week, we got fully operational again, and as we work with Western Europe, so here, of course, people understand what's happening, but they continue their business as usual. So if we would stop, we'll lose a lot of time. So that's why we're still working. We're actually now in the process of 2-3 potential investments, which we will announce soon. And yeah, we were also hit by the war in the sense that we were planning our first closing of the second fund on the first week of March. We had to reschedule that. We lost 40% of potential commitments. A couple of investors just declined. Some of the investors lowered their potential amounts. But still, we will announce soon the next fund, which will be closing this gap between Ukraine and Western Europe.
Thank you. I think pretty much everyone from Ukraine couldn't work in the first 1 to 2 weeks. But I can see that now everyone is trying to get back on track and actually outperform the planned numbers, because they understand that if you cannot help your own company, your own startup, your own fund, you cannot help anyone else, because unfortunately the war is very financially demanding, and if you want to take care of people, which is obviously a priority, you need to be financially stable and profitable. On that notice, what international community can do right now to support Ukrainian startups and Ukrainian venture funds? What do you see would really help you to be visible, to scale faster, and to integrate within new countries? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I think Tatiana also made a great comment about, like, proceeding with the business as usual. When you're flying a commercial airline, you're getting the safety instructions when you have to put the oxygen mask first on yourself and then on the kid that you have on a seat near you. And I think the international community basically should proceed the business as usual with Ukrainian founders and Ukrainian businesses. I think this is the best way to help, because it's not the time of thoughts and prayers, it's time of action, and real action from companies and businesses from Europe, from all over the world, can really, change a lot for companies that's stuck in the stress and in this horrible situation. So I believe, like, real actions, investments, customers, companies should not be afraid to work with Ukrainian companies, because this is the most hard-working people I've ever worked with. So I believe this is like doing business as usual, supporting with customers and investments. This is the only right thing to do right now.
Yeah, that's true. Even before the war, but when things were becoming already like hot, I was saying on LinkedIn, "Hey guys, if you want to support, stop working with Russian companies and work more with Ukrainian companies." So this is what you can do. If you are providers to Ukrainian companies, offer them some discounts or maybe cancel a couple of payments for a couple of months. If you are a client, work more with them and advise your networks to work with these companies. And this is the best way of helping Ukrainian business.
I absolutely agree that the best way to support Ukrainian business is to work with that. So I think that what we need is confidence. Confidence in what we are doing, that Ukrainian companies can deliver the result, that they can reach targets that we discussed, and second is to be heard. So I mean that the opportunity like this one to talk about the situation, to present startups. It is super helpful for Ukrainian startups, as for any startups. But to give the opportunity to for them to present themselves on events like that, of course, it can help them to attract some investment and help them to proceed growing. So yeah, I think that these two things, like confidence and to be heard, is very important.
Yeah, I can add a little bit. Of course, this is all important, and I would say the same, but also to highlight that business community is already helping, even much more than some of the politicians in some of the European countries. Just from experience of our portfolio companies, everybody is eager to hire Ukrainians. So just because, like, to help us, because they understand that many people lost their jobs or they are now in difficult situations, and they are really prioritizing hiring of Ukrainian engineers, talent in all of the spheres. And also, from the investor perspective, it was really flattering. I've heard we committed to one startup, actually scale up already, 2 times at 2 rounds, but we were like the rounds were oversubscribed and we didn't get in. And now we heard from him that he is really eager to see a Ukrainian fund, like fund with Ukrainian team among its investors, just to see our to have our view on his business as well. So it's really cool that we are felt more important, and business should continue doing that, because we really have something to show and something to tell.
On that note, I will ask you first, and then everyone else can reply. For example, Mika said that Ukrainian people are really hardworking. Can you all name 2-3 things why investors must invest into Ukrainian startups? I mean, not despite the war, why Ukrainian founders are a good investment?
Well, you said the first reason. I guess we will be more resilient to any potential stress. I remember when COVID started, we were often asked by different media how our portfolio is coping, how could they predict that, and I was always, and how our business, like investment business, is working. And I always said that in the startup world, the people are the most flexible, the businesses are the most resilient. And now with this experience, I guess Ukrainians will be way ahead of all the other developed countries in this. But also just, I guess, obvious thing which everybody heard a lot, but I cannot underestimate that. Ukrainians are really smart. I don't know whether it's the Soviet education somebody was talking about, because potentially, actually Russia also had it, and we see it didn't help. But I really see that many of the Ukrainians, they know different languages from school. They know lots of different stuff. They are very curious about things, and that's really the things that make a startup a successful one.
Yeah, I think like for the past 1.5 years in Kiev, I again realized that Ukrainian people are unbreakable optimists. And I think when you're doing a startup, when you're creating something from scratch, you're going through a lot of ups and downs. You have to keep that optimism. And Ukrainian people actually have that ability to be optimistic in any kind of situations. And this is something you cannot put a price on that. This is just their ability, and this is a remarkable thing. So adding to the knowledge and being hardworking, I think this ability to be always optimistic about the future and about what you're doing, this is something really remarkable and really should trigger all the investors around the world to invest in Ukrainian startups and companies in general.
I have a funny story about optimism. So during these 40 days, I went through all the 5 stages of grief. And when I went through a deep depression, I've never felt such thing. I was like lying on my bed and crying the whole morning and was not able to get up. I never had it in my life, but I heard a lot about it. And while I was crying on my bed, deep in my mind, I was happy because I knew that it was already the 4th stage, and then the 5th would come, and this is a good stage. So yeah, this is how we all feel, and optimism is an intrinsic part of any Ukrainians. And hard working, of course. I live in Berlin, and I see a lot of refugees coming, and I see Berlin people telling, we've never seen refugees like that. Like everyone just comes and tries to settle themselves, and these girls, women with kids are coming and tell us, give us work, we want to work. What the hell is wrong with you people? You are refugees. And this is for them, is like they respect that a lot. Yeah, being unbreakable, yeah, I think that's the reason to invest in Ukrainian founders.
I don't have even something to add. Yeah, everything I have been told. The people in Ukraine really passed a lot. They faced with a lot of troubles, and they know how to work with that. And Mika was so very right saying that it is very important in startup, because I've been in the several of them, and it's always up and down, and you always had to challenge yourself. And with the Ukrainian people, it is easy to do, because they challenging the life actually. So yeah, and they're really they want to work. They know how to work. So it is also important because they eager to work, and it helps startup to pass any hard times. And the startup that live in Ukraine, that passed all the hard stuff in Ukraine, it would definitely be successful in Europe.
So Victor, now that we know that Ukrainian startups won't give up, and Ukrainian VCs won't give up, and they basically only gonna grow from here because everyone is very positive. I mean, I know my very close friends are now in Kyiv. I mean, I was personally very emotionally affected, and then I asking them, you know, how are you? And they're like, great, like everything gonna be great. I'm great, and I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Like you're like literally have a war in there, and it's just unbelievable. But on that note, Victor, what do you think? What are your growth plans for the next 6 months now that everything is good? And we are like trying to be positive about the future. Like, what would be the best outcome for the next 6 months for you as a founder, for your startup, and then also for Ukraine, obviously?
It's a good question. For us as a startup, we were focused on European markets and European and African markets, and these markets, of course, don't have such great impact like Ukrainian market. But as I said, only 20% of our transactions goes from Ukraine. So we are going to reach the targets that we have. Of course, the aim number one is to make the safe environment for our people, for our team. We opened the office in Lisbon, and we hope that it will be like a second operational office in parallel with Kyiv's office. Yeah, I believe that actually you asked about Ukraine. I believe that Ukraine will stand in this world definitely. 100% sure. And I believe that it would be the great investment opportunity for VC funds and for everyone, because actually we Ukrainians will have no chance to fuck up. We should do something. So of course, the funds that will invest in Ukraine, they will invest in the startups that are growing from scratch, and of course, in such stage, the metrics of growth would be super high. So yeah, I believe that everything will be okay, but we should be strong. We should be focused on what we are doing, because actually we are responsible for people who is now in Ukraine. We are responsible for paying taxes. We are responsible for paying salaries. So we should do what we are doing.
Basically, the same question for everyone.
I wanted to adapt something to what you've said, that your friends in Kiev were trying to calm you. This happened to me. I got a partner in Kiev recently, and we've been having a call, and he was on the street, and all of a sudden the sound of sirens started, and I said, aren't you supposed to go to a shelter? Let's continue. And I was like, hey, I feel a little bit uncomfortable hearing this sound. And he, do you feel uncomfortable? Do you want to continue our call later? And I was like, oh my God, he's trying to calm me down, and I'm in Berlin, and he's sitting with all this sky full of sound of sirens. So yeah, these people cannot be won. And actually, with this partner, we are going to help Ukrainian businesses who rely on learning management system to help their teams grow, to help them switch from Russian systems to our. And this will be our big change of plans for the next 6 months. Yeah, it will also help us to grow in traction. Unexpectedly, I didn't want to grow in traction like this, but I really want to help those businesses to change to not Russian systems.
Yeah, so it's really hard to predict what we're gonna do in like 6 months, because right now we're living in 1 max 2 weeks sprints. You're just every day something new happens, and you have to adapt to new things and come up with new creative solutions. But hey, let's be optimistic, and I'm optimistic here as well. So I believe like in the next right now I'm like wearing 2 hats, like founder at the Green Tech and a founder at Meliora. So at the startup, the Carbon Offset Marketplace, we are doing fundraising. We're raising fund right now, so I believe we're gonna close our round in the next 6 months. That's for sure. And speaking of like software development company Green Tech, I believe that right now we're helping like dozens of our engineers and employees relocate to safer spaces, safer places in Western Europe, in Western Ukraine as well. So I hope that in 6 months we are gonna help these people relocate back to their homes. So hopefully, yeah, we will be able to do that.
Well, actually, I've uncovered my plans already. So this is the first closing of the second fund. It's closer to the end of the closing of this Ukrainian fund, which I believe a lot in. This thing with returning to home. I actually was planning to relocate even before war, so I will stay in Germany for now. But most of our team will be coming back home, and we will arrange work in a new environment. But I also wanted to underline that Israel was for a long time being attacked by Palestine, and we see how ecosystem developed there. So I expect in all of the businesses the same level of growth and the same level of new ideas, and new topics of cybersecurity suddenly became very important for the country, where a lot of engineers and developers are already starting their projects. So I expect also to see very many interesting ideas and projects in the fields which we didn't think about like 2 months ago.
Well, I mean, Kiev has been quite a center of startup ecosystem for the last couple of years. In any case, there are a lot of unicorns coming out of Ukraine, and I agree that probably it will hopefully hit or go further than even Israel. Probably there would be high need of air defense systems. Just one example. But on this, a bit of a happy note, I want to ask a serious question. What was the worst moment for you as a founder, or personally, if you're willing to share, during the last 40 days? I believe it is important to mention and to talk about it, because normally war is presented as just numbers. And when you're talking about numbers, no one really cares. I mean, it's like very sad that thousands are dying, but it doesn't bring an image in front of your eyes. So I want to ask this question so that more people can relate to it, can try to feel what Ukrainian society is going through, and hopefully that would motivate them either to help Ukrainians or to do something to actually stop Russia.
Well, business-wise, also as I said, but the hardest moment was to start taking calls from investors, which we've been getting on board for the last year, saying that I will wait, I will decline, I will decrease the commitment, because like that's the crucial part, like for any company which is growing to raise funds, and we've been working a lot on that. But interesting personal feeling that I saw was that before the war started, we all heard the news from the US, the UK, that it will be happening, terrifying headlines, Russian troops gathering. And as a business leader, and again as an investment manager in the fundraising, I was always positive about this. I was saying, well, don't trust this. There wouldn't be war. There may be some provocations on the border, but Kyiv will be safe for sure. We don't need to move, I said to the team. You don't need to be scared, I said to the investors. I said the same to my family, who were scared about them. But then once it was even 22nd, I guess, I had really also kind of a mental meltdown, because nobody said those things to me. I had to calm everyone, but it's hard to calm yourself. And during war, of course, probably like the Bucha disaster photos, I have no words for it. But also when I was in Przemysl, the hardest moment was to see handwritten notes on the wall that the kid was lost or the mom was lost. It's also, I can't imagine how scary it is.
Yeah, I think this is the hardest question to answer, because there are like a lot of such moments happened during the past 40 days. I believe, yeah, this is very interesting, because I was always very calm when things were related to my business or my employees. I was super positive. Even some of them like disappeared for a couple of days. I still was like, they're fine, they're okay, and they are okay. But what really blew my mind is obviously this genocide in Bucha and many, many others. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, I don't know what to add. I mean, stop the war. Let's end this thing as soon as possible. Thank you.
I think that also it's hard to evaluate the worst thing, because we got somehow immunity with the time. So, for example, I think if Bucha happened on the first day, we would all die emotionally. But with every day, some things get not normal, but we don't react the same as we would react on the first days. And this is a good thing, actually, because our mentality adapts, so we don't go crazy. So that's good. So maybe that's why we remember the first emotions more vividly, at least for myself. Maybe one of the worst moments was on the third day when I saw my husband crying, and he's Portuguese. And he was crying like a baby. I never saw him crying in my life. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. And as a founder, one of the moments that hit me was on the third or fourth day. One of our clients from Kiev wrote to me telling that they would delay the payment because she said our financial director was killed yesterday during the evacuation with her 2 kids. And like with every word, you feel more fucked up because first was killed, then during the evacuation, and then with her 2 kids. And that's like, and she was worried about delaying the payment. I have no words for this, yeah.
It's of course it's hard to talk about that, but you're right. We should talk. Everyone should know that actually it is the scary thing that I've ever faced with, and the explodes in the city and everything that is happening in Ukraine. It's a disaster. It's a genocide, absolutely. Of course, I don't know what is the hardest thing, because on the different phases of passing this disaster, you think that it is the hardest, and then you're facing with something else. Of course, from the very beginning, just this shock from the explodes in all of the cities. Then we know about the Mariupol, and we never seen the such forces as from Bucha, but we should realize that Mariupol is 100,000 people, so it's like 500,000 there, and Bucha, I don't know, maybe 20,000. So now it's mostly occupied by the Russian troops. So we will never see the photos from there. But of course, I believe that it could be much worse than Bucha. Actually, we should just remember that the war and the violence should be never happen in our life. We should do everything to not to face with that. And of course, in such moments, you rethink everything that you faced before. You rethink your attitude to business, your attitude to life. And the most important is the lives. The most important is safeness of your relatives, of your close one. And we should care about that. This is the thing.
I have one more question for all of you. So during the last 40 days, everyone I know who is related to Ukraine needs to basically to live 2 lives. One is a normal life when you need to proceed with your business, with things as usual, with creating partnerships. And the other life is when you need to volunteer, help, find companies that are willing to, I don't know, donate money or provide humanitarian aid or whatever else. How are you dealing with your, time distribution and stress, and how much easier it is becoming for you to switch between those 2 things? And does it scare you or not? Because as Olga mentioned, we're, as scary as it may sound, we are getting used to everything that is happening. Even though we see more atrocities, it's still, again, our brain adapts. So how hard or easy it is for you to switch the hats, and what is your time distribution between now, let's say, your life in Ukraine and your Ukrainian part, and your present part where you still need to continue things as usual?
Nice question. The first thing that everyone should understand that it is first it is emotionally hard to organize yourself. So first 2 weeks, of course, I was trying to do something, but it was like I've done nothing. I was just volunteering, and this was like a chaotic volunteering, buying aids, then looking for some stuff for the military, and then sending money for the military. calling my friends in US, in Finland, and so on, and gathering money for the needs of the military. Of course, it was chaotic. But after some problems that I faced in my life, I have the recipe. This recipe is quite simple. I do need the regime when you are starting the day at 7 o'clock, then you are having the breakfast and so on and so forth. So when you have like very routines, and these routines are how to say, you don't touch them, so you have the routines every day, and then it became not normal, but it became much easier to do, because I have like 2 hours when I doing the volunteer work, the hours for just business, the hours for family, and it helps like that.
Yeah, in my case, it was the same. First 2 weeks you're running, you try to buy everything, you try to organize cargo to whatever, but then you, at least in my case, I try to sit down and to understand what are my superpowers and where I can get the most out of it. Maybe dealing with refugees is not my superpower because I will cry in their faces and it will not be helpful for them, but there are a lot of people in Berlin who can do this. I am better on informational side, on technology side, so maybe I focus on that. And of course, we need to run business. This is also what I understood maybe on 3rd or 4th week, but I just couldn't understand how can I do the same as I did before? So like a cold outreach, following up, writing emails, blah, 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 events, content. I don't have resources for that. So what I did, I just wrote on LinkedIn, hey guys, I don't have time to go after you and to follow up 50 times. You want a learning management system? I have a learning management system. And besides that, 50% will go to help Ukraine. Somehow I was able to close 3 deals last week, and I was like, wow. And yesterday I went with a friend of mine to buy the military clothes to her family. And I didn't spend that much time doing that, so it was wisely distributed. And I agree with you that morning routines help a lot. For me, it would be cold shower and a cup of very strong coffee. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really envy of people who have routine, because my routine went nuts. I don't have one. For the first 2 weeks, I gained so much unnecessary knowledge about like bulletproof vests, types of bullets, types of helmets, like got new friends like military attaché in different embassies, Ukrainian embassies around Europe and the US. And yeah, like first 2 weeks is just a full-time volunteering work. You're organizing supplies. My first business was actually, I was dealing with supplies of wood panels to Middle East. Never thought I'm gonna use some knowledge from, organizing supply chains. But yeah, hey, I used it for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, it was like full-time volunteering. Didn't think about business at all. I mean, I was focused either on helping people or finding people who can help people. That's basically it. And after like 2 weeks, something just hit me that I need to take care of what's happening with my life and my businesses as well to, keep them up and running. And yeah, I believe this is actually very good advice about routine. I'm going to use that. But it's still
I know that you've also been eating a lot of carbs. Just say.
Yeah, I did. Because on the stress started like binge eating and this kind of stuff. Yeah, so routine is a good thing. This is a really good advice. But yeah, it's really hard for me to distribute my time between 2 activities. It's kind of one activity right now for me, like volunteering and doing business. But maybe in the future I can sort of separate them for somehow.
Actually, I will also talk about routine because for the first 5 or 7 days when I was moving my kid and ex-wife to Romania, and then relocating the team, helping everyone. It was really hard. Of course, when the inbound request came, I was also helping with organizing something or finding something or paying for something. But then I settled in one hotel in Chernivtsi region. It was, they had like breakfast, lunch, and supper like 9, 1, and 7 in the evening. And it was a real revelation for me that I can actually divide my time between this eating. So between 9 and 1 I was doing work. After 1 till 7 I was doing everything related to volunteering. And after supper I was actually trying to do something for myself. And that was really also powerful, energetic for the next day. Because when I was, for the first couple of days I was like working and volunteering till midnight, I woke up weaker than I was the day before. So then I started playing cards with someone in this hotel, watching some, I don't know, TV series. And this is also important because, of course, if it's a stressful situation which will end in 1 week, probably you need to spend all of your resources there. But when the situation, you don't know when it will stop, you need to be like a marathon runner. You need to use all of your energy very smartly and to divide it into the longest period possible, and to have some stops to revive it.
That actually was going to be my next question. So now that we understand that it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, what advices we can give to other founders or other VC funds? Because it's not going to stop, as sad as it sounds, but speaking realistically, it's not going to just end within like 2 weeks or a month. What advice can we give to founders and VC funds on how they should work with that information, that that they shouldn't wait for it to end? Is there anything else that they can, let's say, implement in their mindset that would help to deal with this marathon?
There is a very nice quote I saw recently. I don't remember the name. I'm bad at it. But it was also about one sad situation about staying in concentration camps of Nazis. So the quote was that the first ones who went mad were the pessimists, who were thinking that everything will be bad. So they made their mind just melt just because of their own thinking. The second ones who went crazy were the optimists, because they were always hoping that the next day will be better, and it wasn't better. But those who really survived, the biggest amount of those who survived, of course, who weren't killed specifically by Nazis, were the ones who were just focusing on routine again, each and every day. They were just living the life in these circumstances, how bad they are. They were trying to find something good. They were seeing bad as bad, but not overestimating it. So you have to stay sober in your mind, not to become too optimistic or too pessimistic. Just try to live with this balance. How bad it looks, but still.
That's a perfect answer. If you don't mind, I will jump to another question, because I didn't think about it before, but I think it is important. So I've been quite out loud about the situation in Ukraine, and a lot of people, let's say from EU and US, consider my posts to be aggressive because, you are not supposed to speak up because it will hurt your business. And we will see more and more of those sayings around as the situation continues, because again, it's a marathon. So what is your perception? Like, where is that fine line between speaking out loud and doing enough, and is there even a fine line? Like that's even more important question, because I genuinely believe that we need to speak up about it, but is there a point where it could actually hurt the business or startup or a fund? Because as for example a fund manager, you probably cannot make posts on the fund behalf. I mean, I was doing it, but like the rule of thumb is that you cannot do it. So yeah, like what's your perception on that?
I would try to separate business position from the personal position. Like we discussed previously, there is business life and there is war life. So business life should stay as usual. Of course, you can turn your business to volunteering initiative. Somehow you can announce that so they can be more effective and helpful. But in terms of all of your personal emotions about this, I guess there should be like your private page without your brand and without your logo. And not because it will just like make business worse or whatever, but just because it's the pure communication rules and marketing rules. There is a perfect, perfect head to say different things. So the business should talk about business, and you personally can talk about everything you want, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually agree with that thought that it's easier to separate like your personal thoughts and distribute them through your personal channels, but do at the same time business as usual, because it's really hard to, draw this fine line that Tatiana mentioned. So that's why it's easier to agree on some ground rules and separate them from the very beginning. But we shouldn't talk less about the situation. We should talk even more, because as we already discussed, like the human psychology is developed in a way that we are, get used to some horrible things that are happening right now, and we still should, show the world what's really happening. We should talk about that even louder than we did before, because this is the only way. I mean, we shouldn't speak less about that.
For me, it's hard to separate for me business from myself, because I live very intensely both things. So when I speak on my personal pages, I'm not only speaking as Olga, I also speak as a founder of Workademy, but of course I would not post things that I post from my personal page from the company page. But at the same time, business is also affected, because as a business, we don't want to work with Russian-based VC funds, for example. And it happened to me. I got an email from Russian VC telling that they were interested in our company, and I just advised them to invest in other project, and I sent them the link to Come Back Alive fund. This is the fund that helps Ukrainian army. I also got some partnerships requests from Russian companies, and I sent that. Unfortunately, at this time, I have to tell them the direction of Russian worship. So, maybe it was not professional for me to say, but this is what I feel. As a business, we shouldn't work and cooperate, and somehow we should state it as a business as well. Maybe not in the same loud or aggressive, as you said. We have the right to be aggressive, to be honest. I think that the people who understand, they understand. And also another thing, I will finish right now. As a business, in the future, when everything ends, I want to work with businesses and people who also are against the war and they against all these things. So if they see my position and if they don't like it, let them go away right now. I don't want to deal with them in the future. Yeah.
I can't agree with. I would agree with the position that Max told us before. I would agree with that before the war. But I can't agree with that now, because, as I said, I rethink some things, and I think that now it's for any business right now is important the sustainability. Yeah, we are talking about the how this business could impact our environment. We are talking about the responsibility of this business. Before we were talking about about the things that business shouldn't involve kids for the work. for example, in China. Now we are talking about the sustainability. And now I think that there is a time when we should talk that business can't support the war, the business can't support the violence. So when we are talking about the governments, when we are talking about the politicians, and we are forcing them to make some actions, to take the responsibility to help us, we should do the same. Businesses should do the same. We can't, actually for us, we break any contracts with Russian companies. We break anything that somehow links with Russian companies. And I'm not going to change something, because this is our responsibility. I don't want to make them make money on our brains, on our technologies. So I think that business should be responsible in 2020s. It should be responsible for what they're doing. They should be wise, because now I think that the business is not only about the money. It's also about the responsibility, to the people you hire, about the responsibility for the environment, about the responsibility for everyone. So I should say that I think that we should stand against the violence, against the harming of environment, and so on.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was really nice talking with you all. I need to run, and we need to wrap up this panel, because I will be right now interviewing Ukrainian founders who are in Ukraine right now and who couldn't participate on site. But it was really my pleasure talking with you all, and hopefully we will continue discussion of the panel as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being so active. Just indeed, as Tatiana said, we have a bit of a continuation of the panel where Tatiana will be interviewing the speakers and the Ukrainian founders on the virtual stage in Sessions in Hopin. But we're probably going to need another minute to reassemble the tables, because our next speaker, Flavia Richardson, is already ready, and she's standing there waiting for us to change the stage. I'm going to see you in a second.